Airbnb policy. Global crackdown on short-term rentals. From historic European cities to popular tourist destinations in the USA, the crackdown on Airbnb-style rentals is gaining momentum. As concerns mount over rising house prices, over-tourism, and the displacement of locals, governments and municipalities are implementing bans and restrictions to address these issues. But before we get into it, don't forget to like and share this video with your friends. Be sure to subscribe to our channel to get notified of the next video from us. Shall we start? Europe's push for balance. Italy. Nationwide regulations on the horizon. Italy is taking steps to rein in short-term holiday rentals. Following Rome's lead, Florence recently banned new Airbnb listings in its historic city center. Meanwhile, Venice and Milan are discussing similar restrictions. Italy's tourism ministry has even drafted a law to limit rentals to a minimum stay of 2 days to preserve housing in popular tourist destinations. France. Paris puts a cap on days. In the City of Love, Parisians must register with the local town hall to rent their primary residence on Airbnb. They can only do so for a maximum of over 120 days a year. Second homes or longer rentals require conversion to furnished tourist accommodations, with strict enforcement and penalties for illegal rentals. Germany. Stringent rules in Berlin and Munich. While Berlin recently lifted its ban on Airbnb, strict regulations remain. Hosts must obtain permits to rent out entire properties for short-term stays, with second homes limited to 90 days per year. Munich and Stuttgart have also implemented similar restrictions to manage the impact of short-term rentals on local housing availability. Netherlands and Portugal, limiting nights and reviews. Amsterdam permits hosts to rent out their properties for 30 nights a year, with additional stays requiring short-term permits. With rising rental prices, Portugal has stopped issuing new licenses for holiday lets. It reviews existing licenses every 5 years and offers tax breaks to convert Airbnb properties into regular homes. Spain and the UK. From room restrictions to annual caps. Barcelona bans short-term private room rentals, requiring a minimum stay of 31 days. Palma banned tourist rentals in apartment buildings, allowing only single-family homes. London implemented a 90-night cap on Airbnb stays per year, while Edinburgh requires planning permission for second home rentals. Northern Ireland now mandates certificates for tourist accommodations. USA and Canada, containing the Airbnb phenomenon. Hawaii and Memphis, island restrictions and licensing. Honolulu, facing over-tourism and inflated house prices, banned Airbnb stays under 90 days on Oahu, with further country-specific regulations. In Memphis, new Airbnb owners must obtain licenses and meet specific insurance coverage and proximity requirements. New York and California, registration and rental limits. New York's new law requires strict registration, zoning, and maintenance rules for hosts. Palm Springs limits short-term rentals to 26 days and residential areas to 20% of homes. San Francisco has a 90-day rental limit and stringent compliance rules. Canada's measures for housing. Certain boroughs of Montreal have banned new short-term rentals to ensure housing availability for residents. Quebec imposes a maximum stay of 31 consecutive days. Vancouver allows a 30-night cap per stay, while Toronto permits Airbnb hosting for 180 days per year. Asia and Australia, finding a balance. Penang's anti-social tourism control. The picturesque island of Penang in Malaysia has banned short-term rental holidays to tackle disruptive tourist behavior. However, certain commercial properties can still host guests with proper registration and approvals. Japan's balanced approach in Tokyo. Tokyo introduced regulations limiting short-term rentals to 180 days per year, with strict owner or administrator presence requirements. Rentals in certain districts are permitted only at specific times of the year. Singapore and Sydney's rental periods. Singapore imposes a minimum rental period of 3 months, discouraging short-term holiday stays. In Sydney, Australia, Airbnb hosts can rent out their properties for a maximum of 180 days per year, with bookings over 21 consecutive days exempt from this limit. Impact of Airbnb policy on short-term rentals. The impact of Airbnb policy on short-term rentals has been significant in recent years. Governments and municipalities worldwide have implemented regulations to address concerns surrounding housing availability, housing prices, and over-tourism. Here are some key points highlighting the impact of Airbnb policy on the short-term rental market. Number 1. Regulatory compliance. Hosts must comply with local regulations, obtain permits, and adhere to specific guidelines set by Airbnb to local authorities. Number 2. Rental limitations. Many cities have restricted the number of days or nights a property can be rented out as a short-term rental, ensuring a balance between tourism and housing needs. Number 3. Housing market stability. Stricter regulations aim to prevent the negative impact of short-term rentals on housing availability and affordability, protecting the interests of local residents. Number 4. Enforcement measures. Authorities have increased efforts to monitor and penalize non-compliant hosts, discouraging illegal rentals and ensuring adherence to Airbnb policy. Number 5. Economic impact. The regulations have sparked debates on the economic effects as short-term rentals contribute to tourism revenue while potentially displacing long-term residents. Addressing the consequences of Airbnb policy. Addressing the consequences of Airbnb policy is crucial in managing the impact of short-term rentals on housing markets and local communities. Here are key points highlighting the efforts to mitigate these consequences. Number 1. Housing affordability. Stricter Airbnb policies aim to alleviate the pressure on housing affordability, preventing the potential inflation of prices caused by the conversion of long-term rental units into short-term rentals. Number 2. Displacement of locals. Regulations seek to minimize the displacement of local residents, ensuring that housing options remain available for those who live and work in the area. Number 3. Overtourism Management. By implementing Airbnb policies, cities can better control the influx of tourists and mitigate the strain on local infrastructure and resources. Number 4. Regulatory compliance. Policies encourage hosts to follow guidelines, obtain necessary permits, and comply with local regulations, fostering responsible and sustainable short-term rental prices. Number 5. Balanced tourism development. Airbnb policy can help create a balanced tourism ecosystem by promoting a mix of short-term rentals, hotels, and other accommodation options, fostering a more diverse and resilient tourism industry. Managing tourism with Airbnb policy. Over-tourism concerns have become a pressing issue in popular destinations, and Airbnb policy plays a significant role in managing tourism and its impact. Here's an overview of how Airbnb policy helps address over-tourism concerns. Number 1. Diversifying accommodation options. Airbnb policy encourages the availability of alternative accommodation options beyond traditional hotels, allowing tourists to disperse across neighborhoods and reducing concentration in overcrowded areas. Number 2. Local community engagement. Airbnb policy promotes community engagement by encouraging hosts to provide authentic local experience and recommendations, fostering a more immersive and sustainable form of tourism. Number 3. Regulation of guest numbers. Airbnb policy often includes restrictions on the maximum number of guests allowed in a rental property, helping to control overcrowding and maintain peaceful coexistence between tourists and locals. Number 4. Destination management. By enforcing regulations on short-term rentals, authorities can gain better control over tourism flows, ensuring that the number of visitors remains within sustainable limits and minimizing strain on local infrastructure. Number 5. Data collection and analysis. Airbnb policy often requires hosts to provide guest data to authorities, enabling better understanding and monitoring of tourism patterns and their impact on local communities. Balancing Airbnb policy and housing needs. Preserving local communities while balancing Airbnb policy and housing needs is crucial to sustainable tourism management. Here's a breakdown of how Airbnb policy seeks to achieve this balance. Number 1. Housing availability. Stricter Airbnb policies aim to prevent the conversion of long-term rental units into short-term rentals, ensuring an adequate housing supply for local residents. Number 2. Affordability Protection. By curbing the impact of short-term rentals on housing markets, Airbnb policy helps maintain affordable housing options for local residents, mitigating potential price inflation caused by tourism demand. Number 3. Resident Protection. Regulations focus on protecting the rights and well-being of local residents, reducing the risk of displacement, and preserving the social fabric of communities. Number 4. Community Engagement. Airbnb policy often encourages hosts to engage with their local communities, fostering positive interactions between tourists and residents and minimizing negative social impacts. Number 5. Sustainable Neighborhoods. By regulating the distribution and density of short-term rentals, Airbnb policy aims to create more balanced neighborhoods where tourists and residents coexist harmoniously. Ensuring the effectiveness of Airbnb policy, enforcement and compliance play a crucial role in ensuring the effectiveness of Airbnb policy and its impact on the short-term rental market. Here's an overview of how enforcement measures contribute to the success of Airbnb policy. Number 1. Regulatory Oversight. Authorities implement robust monitoring systems to enforce compliance with Airbnb policies, ensuring hosts adhere to local regulations and guidelines. Number 2. Penalties and Fines. Non-compliant hosts face penalties and fines, discouraging illegal rentals and incentivizing adherence to the established rules and regulations. Number 3. Reporting Mechanisms. Platforms like Airbnb have reporting mechanisms that allow community members to flag any violations or concerns, aiding in identifying non-compliant listings. Number 4. Data Sharing. Collaboration between Airbnb and local authorities enables data sharing, facilitating better oversight and enforcement efforts. Number 5. Public Awareness. Efforts to educate hosts and the public about Airbnb policies and their importance to promote compliance and encourage responsible short-term rental practices. As the battle between tourism and housing needs intensifies, cities and countries worldwide are enacting measures to regulate Airbnb-style rentals. While its restrictions on days, licensing requirements, and caps on stays, the aim is to strike a balance between the benefits of tourism and the preservation of local communities. While the regulations may inconvenience some hosts and travelers, they are a testament to the growing awareness of the need to protect housing availability and mitigate the effects of over-tourism. What will you surely remember among these information we have for you? Comment down below and share it with us. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. See you next time.